Okay. I'm assuming that we are officially live.
Yeah, well, recording.
Hell yeah, this is going to be a great intro.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. I am the world famous Rocky. Tonight I am drinking, I don't know if you can see, looks like apple juice, but it is whiskey and water, whiskey on the rocks. But I'm also eating chocolate wafers to go with the whiskey because chocolate and whiskey go so well together.
Of course. Of course, chocolate and whiskey goes well together. Um, Again, this for another week. I'm Marbles, um, the illustrious leader of this podcast, who
Um,
again is
I was,
drinking
damn it.
is drinking Guinness.
We could have taken a poll right now. 100% of people could have guessed what you were drinking tonight.
I don't know. I just been in a mood where drinking Guinness just tastes great, and I honestly only drink it when when we're recording. So they last me like weeks. Um, I might have one like on Friday, one of the nitros or something. I also have a Truly Black Cherry as a backup, but it's starting to sweat, so gotta make sure I get to it.
Hip hip hooray for sweating.
Dude, I just watched another movie on my list, Contagion, which came
Isn't that
out.
from like 96?
No, that one came out 2011. Um, it's got Jude Law in it and
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon and a lot of
Kate
other people.
Winslet, Gwyneth Paltrow, Marion Collard, Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, it's scary how close that movie was to this pandemic. Um, like it started with being transmitted from the biggest differences would be it was that um that the movie pandemic was like 10 times more deadly. I think within like a month they had like 2 million people dead or something. Like it was ridiculous. Um, and there was a lot of like rioting and like looting and stuff. Which didn't real. I mean, the biggest thing that happened in real life was toilet paper, like being sold out everywhere. Uh, but yeah, so that one was the movie was a little more like exaggerated in just how deadly it was, and how fast they got a vaccine. I think they got a vaccine within like 130 days or something. Um,
Jesus.
yeah, so it was kind of like, which in real life it even in the movie they said it would take about a year um, before they would figure out a vaccine, which is kind of what happened in real life. It took about a year before they figured it out and were able to start making them. But in the movie, they accelerated it by basically saying, "Oh, it's gonna take. We haven't even started human trials, and it's gonna take months to get approvals. Then we got to do trials, and then it's gonna be more months." But instead, the scientist goes into like the laboratory and just injects herself with the vaccine, and then finds out it works. So, so they kind of just accelerated it, and then by like day 130 something, they had they were inoculating people.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was the part that was like, okay, that's a little far fetched. Like, no, it's never that quick or that easy. But um, they even had the aspect of like Jude Law's character was like a um, these are spoilers for a 10-year-old movie. But Jude Law's character, he was like I guess he kind of maybe was a journalist at some point, but he kind of had like a website that had, I guess everyone kind of considered him more of like a conspiracy kind of guy, like a guy who just says stuff and then people like on the internet listen to him, but he never has like hard proof about stuff. So he started pushing this like cure some chemical that you can get and take that would cure you from it. So people started like raiding pharmacies trying to get their hands on it. And then the CDC was like, yeah, there's no proof that like that's a cure for anything. And then Homeland Security ends up basically arresting him, taking his blood, and finding out that he never actually was sick. He didn't have that virus, and so he's online telling people that like this drug cured him. In reality, it didn't. And then they mention towards the end that like he's telling people not to get vaccinated because the WHO and the CDC are in the pockets of like big pharmaceutical companies and like all these crazy things. And I'm like, wow, that sounds like what a lot of people are saying of why they don't want to get vaccinated. The whole follow the money, man. Like it's all for the money. So I'm like, there's a lot of similarities in this movie with what actually would happened in real life or what could happen. Um,
This is, it's just a weird time to live nowadays.
Yeah, but it was just weird that a movie that came out 10 years ago was so close to. I mean, even down to like um the virus they say came from bats in China. But it was like a bat that it mutated when it jumped to pigs and then it jumped to people. And I guess like Gwyneth Paltrow was like the first one of the first people to get it um in the movie. So uh, yeah, it was kind of I don't know. There were some things in there that were a little like, well, that didn't happen in real life, and two, I don't know if that would exactly happen. Um, uh, like a lot of people seem to actually be afraid of it and to not like stay home and stay indoors and like not actually go anywhere. And a lot of the streets and a lot of the places seemed abandoned. Where in real life, people were like, no, I'm going to go out and get my hair done. No, I'm going to go out and go, I want to go here and I want to go to this restaurant. I want to go there. And hence why it's still ongoing because people just can't put in the effort to help stop it. So in the movie, it was like unrealistic in the sense that everyone seemed to actually be trying to like avoid getting sick. And in real life, people just don't give a damn. Um, but yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there. I mean, like they were actually closing borders of states and doing like really really extreme measures. Um, whereas I just read in the news like this morning that the governor of Florida was saying that he's blaming Biden for the increase in cases in Florida because he's letting immigrants in because he's not closing the southern border. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm pretty sure the number of people in Florida that have it are from Florida.
I would 100% guess that.
they're not immigrants. They're probably from Florida. Those are the oh dude, I saw a thing in some hospital in Florida is offering like a $25,000 signing bonus because employees are literally leaving on the job because they're overstretched and like doctors and nurses are just quitting.
That's
And
because nobody wants to be anywhere near anywhere that's crazy because nobody's taking it for cereal right now.
no, and it's making their lives more difficult. And who would blame them? You know, if your life becomes a living hell because of everyone else's, I guess, carefreeness, then I would be mad too. And I could totally understand why doctors and stuff would be quitting the hospitals when one they don't have enough room for all the patients. They don't have enough, ventilators or beds or, you know, antiviral drugs or anything else. They're running out of stuff. People are dying. Who would want to just stick around for that?
Not me.
Especially if the government and everyone else is saying, "Ah, it's fine."
Nah, you see, this
Nah,
is what normally happens.
it's fine. Everything's fine. This is the libs' fault and the immigrants. I don't know. Oh, and then I got an ad online for one of the like gun stores out here for like 500 rounds. It was like $300 for 9 mil.
The hell?
And I'm like, that is expensive.
I think I got a box of
I feel like I did the math.
EXP for $25.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
I did the math and I'm like, that's like $1.66 a bullet.
When I actually have to pay full price, depending on if I can have one of my sales guys do it, I spend like 40 to 45 cents per.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, something like that should be under $1 per round. But um, a couple years ago, I had bought 45. I bought 500 rounds, and it was only like 125 bucks or something. Like it was cheap compared to 500 rounds of 9 millimeter for $300. I'm like, that's a lot. That's expensive. I'm like, it's not worth it. I'll wait. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything's
You
still
also have that 40 that's hard to get.
mm, everything's just too expensive, dude. Chip shortage, bullets are expensive. So, what's new with you?
Design my business cards, drinking. My sister wants to come out, so we're trying to coordinate. Originally, it was going to be around holiday season,
Okay.
and now all of a sudden she's talking about like, "Hey, what about Labor Day weekend?" I was like, "Whoa, whoa, slow down there, killer, slow down."
When is Labor Day weekend? September?
Like 3 week, a month from now.
Okay. I always forget when Labor Day and like when Memorial Day are.
Labor Day is the first Monday in September.
Okay. It's like 4 weeks from now. Um, right. Nope. I don't want to maximize that screen. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's cool. Um,
So we officially don't have a business card maker at work anymore. So we're up to pretty much designing our own. So
they
I
don't
got
have just like a
confirmation.
template
No.
that
So I'm
you
like,
guys just
huh.
they just slap your name on it and print them out.
Well, they were supposed to, but the guy who has the template is no longer working for us.
Cool. So the template was in the hands of a single person, not like a company thing.
Correct.
That makes sense.
So there's that. So I'm just trying to decide, what do I want. So if you see me acting all strange, it's because I'm secretly designing business cards while we talk about life, liberty, pursuit of happiness,
Are you gonna
and ghetto movies on Netflix. Because I watched another one. Sorry, there was a spot in my cup.
are you gonna design your cards like American Psycho when they're having that meeting of like showing off their business cards and which ones are embossed and which ones are like gold leafed and
See, I've always thought of like Ocean's 11 business cards
okay.
that just say Danny Ocean, and then you flip it over and there's a phone number.
Yeah. I
So I'm like,
mean,
I can
business
get creative.
business cards aren't I don't think taken with the same level of like uh showmanship or importance that they used to be. Especially since a lot of people don't like business cards made a lot of sense when you needed to know the number to somebody or to a business and there was no internet. So it like okay, it's cool. You would have a business card that you could look through that stood out and you can find the number. But now with the internet, if they want to call the dealer or whatever, or the some store, they could just look it up. Like they don't need a business card with a certain person's name on it. And the fact that a lot of companies don't, I don't think a lot of salespeople in a lot of companies are not considered like I don't want to say important, but uh, like the likelihood that you're going to call a business to talk to a specific salesperson in a lot of industries kind of doesn't exist
Not,
anymore.
nope,
You'll
not at
just
how
you'll just
quickly
talk to
people get
whoever.
irritated.
Yeah, you'll talk to whoever answers the phone. you're not you're not going to have like a 30-year relationship with a guy who sells you, stuff at Target.
This is Joe.
like
He's been my tire guy for 17 years.
yeah, it's like a lot of businesses cycle through what they would consider sales pretty frequently. I mean, there's some bigger companies that salespeople stick around for a lot longer, but the whole company loyalty thing where you started a company, you work there for 40 years, and then you like retire on a pension, it doesn't exist anymore.
That's long gone.
So you're never gonna have like that one guy that you just are so in tight with, and you have his business card, and you've known him for he went to your kid's graduation, or he was there when your daughter was born, or something like that. Guy doesn't exist anymore. Just whoever answers the phone.
It's funny because looking through these websites, I see where half my sales team got some of these cards.
Exactly. They're just going online, searching business card, and getting a template.
And I'm,
I mean, do you remember when you could go to like uh didn't like Kinko's and stuff used to make business cards?
yeah.
You would have to like go into a place,
Or
pick
you had to
like
actually know somebody
or
who actually did it.
yeah, and you have to like make up a design and then have like, pay a certain amount to get like 500 printed. Nowadays, you just go online and grab a template.
Mm-hmm. It's like 500 for 750.
Yeah.
Okay, sign me up. That is now $27. What?
Um yeah, like business cards, some like I have a business card from my doctor's because it's just easier to call, to have that line like there in case I for some reason either can't find the office number online if I don't remember what it is, or if something happens to my phone and I don't have that contact list anymore, I can still like call the main office and know the extension too. Um, which is probably the most helpful thing on a business card is like the extensions to people. Um, if you talk to a certain person, a tax person, a doctor, things like that, you know, still helpful.
Ooh. Do I want to go square or standard?
What's the difference?
Like your normal business card or like one that looks like a square?
Oh, make a literal different shape.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I'm tempted just to make like a coaster size card right
I
now.
mean, I mean, you do have to balance size and function. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
like you don't want to make it so unwieldy that someone just throws it away because they don't know where to put it.
Yeah, I also got to look at prices. I'm not spending $50 for 100 for these. Yeah, no, thank you.
For
Don't
square
think
ones,
I don't think I'm gonna be lasting that
for
long.
square cut business cards.
Yeah, I'm kind of over these options, homie. I give up.
Yeah. Oh man.
So what else is going on in the life of marbles?
Not much. Work's been really really slow. I haven't done anything all week.
So how are you supposed to be putting in all that overtime?
I don't know.
Well, if you are really bored, there's this movie out on Netflix I watched last night. Let me tell you. Yeah.
What is it called?
It's called The Losers. And I think it's a DC spinoff. Um, it's got a wannabe comic book intro. It's got Chris Pine. It's got Negan and the Black James Bond. Is it Idris Elba?
Yeah.
Let me look this up. So I'm gonna say the
Who
wrong name right
hasn't
now.
been made James Bond yet? I think he would make a good James
It
Bond.
is Idris Elba. Apparently, it came out in 2010. That's how old this movie is. Zoe Saldana, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Chris Evans, Idris Elba, and a bunch of other people you have no idea. But you're like, that guy looks familiar, so he's probably been in a TV movie.
Of course.
If you remember the A Team, it's got like that same vibe to it.
Okay.
It's got the script of like Red
Okay.
and the acting of the Ginger Dead Man,
That's weird.
the little gingerbread man that would kill people. It is rough. And you're like, no, they're not gonna. Oh yeah, yep, you did that. You shot a motorcycle driving 100 miles an hour right in the gas tank, and it completely exploded.
Yeah, of
But when it
course.
exploded, it did a front flip, even though you shot it in the rear, and it blew up an airplane because it did a front flip and it crashed through the airplane.
Because why not?
It
Um,
was, it was. There's not enough alcohol in the world that I would have been like, yeah, that's a good idea for a movie.
there's I have those too where um it's like I don't know, it seems more like they're trying to focus on just cool effects more than like a plausible story or plot. They're just like, let's just show a bunch of cool action stuff.
There's my first template coming into your phone right now. You know what? Screw it.
Okay.
Sneak peek, right? Sneak peek, world premiere, unseen by anyone except for Marbles coming in. I don't know if that really works out well or not.
Not much. A little bit.
Yeah, let me do this and turn off my light,
Yeah.
but it's backwards.
Actually, for me, it's not.
Oh, well,
I think you're. See, this is the issue
son
we
of a.
had. I think if you go to your camera settings, you probably have mirror on, so therefore it looks
No,
mirrored. Is that your left hand?
that's my left hand.
See, if I do my left hand, it's fine. But last week I had it mirrored, so for me, my left hand was on the right side.
I
It looked like I was looking through um, a mirror, or not. It was like, yeah, it was like reflected backwards versus what the
it was like
camera
a
actually
mirror through a
sees.
mirror.
Yeah. So when I was looking at myself last week, I was switched. Everything was on the wrong
We're
side.
confused.
Um, that reminds me, I ate all the Doritos Flamas that I had. Could use more.
I also need to found out Volkswagen's not selling my car right now, so kind of put a hindrance in that one
The
too.
one you wanted to get?
Yeah, the one I was waiting for a while to get, and then they issued a stop order, and they're like, "Yeah, the engines are just stopping for no reason right now, so just go ahead, don't sell those cars for the moment."
I find it weird. Um, the longer, like, the further we go in like automobile technology, the more problems there are. And I feel like it's because they have this like every year they got to push something out that and the cars just get more and more complicated. I feel like they don't work everything out by the time the car has to get into production. So they start making them, and then they kind of like beta test by just selling them to people, and then people going in saying, "Hey, my
Pretty
car
much.
just stopped," or "Hey, my car just changed gears. Like it was in park and it went into reverse by itself," or it was in drive and it just popped into neutral while I was on the freeway. Like it's just like stuff like that happens because they haven't figured out like all the ways it can go wrong by
All
the
the
time they.
headaches that we see are all the electronics and the amenities they're trying to put into cars.
Mhm.
All have to run off of a computer system.
Multiple computer
Well,
systems.
you're tying multiple computer systems into each other,
Hmm.
and then when you update one or you have a glitch with one, now it affects everything within that same tie sequence.
Yeah.
So you can have an issue with your phone connecting to your radio module. Now your engine just does whatever it wants, and you're like, how does that even make sense?
I
It
don't know,
doesn't.
man. Car programming is just completely out of my wheelhouse.
So I might have to join the dark side and go Hyundai now.
Mm, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. I know they have that great 10-year warranty, but let me tell you, going through a new engine every 7,000 miles does not sound like fun right now.
No, no.
Not that we see that issue a lot.
I honestly don't know what to go with nowadays. Like
A 1980 C10 Blazer,
1998 Camry.
a 92 Toyota Camry. Look up there's a Google meme for a Craigslist ad on a old Camry. Oh my God, it is gold.
um,
You
it
could legitimately drive that car underwater, light it on fire,
yeah,
and then it'd be like, cool, let's go on a road trip. I haven't had an oil change in 16 years. Let's
yeah.
do it.
No, I do. I I don't know. I was looking at. I think I sent you. I think I sent the group chat. The text about the Ford, the electric F-150, and how they had like 200,000 pre-orders or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I wonder if when you literally take all the guts out of a car, if it if it's gonna make it easier to actually make them and to push them out, and the only complicated part is gonna be software. Versus now,
No,
you still have a bunch of parts that you got to manufacture in a way that they meet like emission standards.
that's our biggest headache in the US,
Yeah.
or all the emission standards that you have to meet because they're bogus.
Hmm.
And so everyone's shortcutting the system. Everyone knows they're shortcutting the system.
Well, that's why was it Volkswagen and what was the other company they got caught like cheating on their emissions tests?
Volkswagen didn't get caught so much cheating as much as somebody just straight called their bluff.
Well,
And they were like,
they
yeah, we
they
don't think those numbers are what you say they are. And they're like, nah, you're fine.
well
And
what happened was see what had happened was um
story time.
they like from what I read and what I heard it was they were basically giving results from different tests that weren't technically recognized as like as a legitimate like tests. Um, like for instance, if you took like let's compare it to like SAT scores, right? You take the SAT, you get a score. Well, what if you take like a different test and then say it's an SAT score?
Just because it said ACT on the paper,
It said like something something SAT, so we're just gonna count it as a SAT test. But they're like, that wasn't the you didn't do the right like you didn't do the take the right tests to come up with these numbers. You took some other like like illegitimate by our standards. You took like an illegitimate test,
that's the SAT test they sell in an alleyway
and
in Los
I think they
Angeles.
were also modifying the testing components,
Mm-hmm.
which were different. And it wasn't just Volkswagen that did it. It was somebody else. What was the other company that did it? They were modifying the test benches basically.
It was
And
90% Volkswagen.
Well, yeah, but I think there was somebody else that was doing something
BMW.
similar. Was it BMW? Yeah, they were modifying like the test benches, so the engines that they tested were different than what they were actually putting in cars and selling. So by the
Look
test
at
standards, they
these
passed.
engines meet these standards.
Yeah, but they're
What are
like,
those engines? We don't know.
that's I don't know. That's not what we put in the cars.
You just said this had to pass the test. It passed.
Yeah. Um. So it's like I think if you move to, I mean, obviously electric cars are gonna have their own set of problems,
It's gonna be ugly.
but there are less parts in general. There's no transmissions. There's motors for the wheels, but there isn't like, and there's like heating systems and cooling systems and stuff, but they don't have oil changes, they don't have transmissions, they don't have all the components that go along with a combustion engine. The batteries, I think, are going to be the batteries and probably motors are going to be the biggest mechanical issues for electric cars. But electric cars are probably going to also have issues with like software, especially when they
It's
start
gonna
moving
be
towards
100% software related.
especially when they're moving towards more and more like self-driving stuff, you're going to have a lot of problems with software.
We're gonna see a lot of tire and suspension issues too,
Yeah.
because now people aren't coming in for normal services. They're not gonna be rotating their tires, which means you're gonna be doing tires every 25, 30,000 miles.
Hmm. Um, yeah. So that's the biggest stuff I think you have to, I guess, manage in future cars. But I mean, it would be nice to not have to have like crazy torque, not have an actual engine. I think when charging stations or homes built with charging built in become more popular, it makes it more convenient for people to get an electric car. If you could like most people don't travel huge distances. They travel, to the store, to from work, basic places. If you're getting 300 or more miles, on a full charge and you're charging every day when you get home after work, like you're not going to run out of battery.
No, but you're
Not the 20 miles most people probably on average drive in a day, you know.
but then it's also gonna impact your actual mileage that you get on the car because, like, for instance, LA 20 miles and Texas 20 miles are two completely different set of scenarios.
Yeah. No, they're different, yeah. Um but I think it's probably going to run you cheaper in the long run anyways.
Depends.
And I'm just saying, and filling up your car versus gas, versus charging it, you're probably going to spend less money charging it in the long run.
Here's where they haven't factored that in yet. We'll say the cheapest gas combustion engine car probably costs you anywhere from 19 to $23,000,
Hmm.
and then you have your actual gas you put in. Versus your cheapest fully electric car right now is going to set you about $45,000. So right out of the gate, you are $20,000 negative equity.
True.
So the amount of time you'd actually have to spend driving that car to compete with the difference just to get to the sale price is a hurdle. The way that the electrical system is on the grid right now, that's a whole other fiasco because they don't tell you how much you're actually going to be putting on your house voltage. In Texas, we have a pretty cheap electrical grid, so it keeps breaking. But I remember in California, you have Southern California Edison
Mhm.
or DWP. So you kind of get locked in.
Or PG&E if you're far enough up.
When I was running my old house AC, that was 500 a month minimum for SE. Out here, my house never passed 72 degrees, and it's in the summer 220.
See, for to run the AC here, it's coming out to a little over 150 a month.
Jesus.
Yeah. So we pay every 2 months,
Hmm.
and the last time I think we paid the electric bill, it was like 300 and something bucks for 2 months, 330 or something. So it's like not. It's just variable, I guess. But I mean, yeah, you are upfront cost for an electric car is higher, but you also have less maintenance costs usually, and fuel costs would probably be less depending on where you live.
Yes, depending on where you live.
Charging wise, like I think for around here it's like 12 cents a kilowatt or something. It's 16 cents a kilowatt. So trickle charging your car every day, because part of the allure is like the cars don't just max out all the time, and that comes down to software. But theoretically, the car's supposed to know like how often you drive it and when you charge it, and know how much and how long to charge for. So you could spend relatively small amounts of money all week versus spending like for me, if I drove to work every day and home, that's 20 miles each way. So I was spending, and depending on gas prices, especially in the summer, I'm spending like, 60, 70 bucks on gas a week. So if I had an electric car, it would actually be cheaper for me to plug it in every day than it would be for me to fill up a car with gas. And then also have to do an oil change and tire rotation every like 3,000 miles, which is not hard to hit when you're traveling, you know, 40 miles a day.
Which is why you go with Volkswagen. You only need an oil change every 10,000 miles.
There you go.
Or
Um,
BMW.
yeah.
Or Mercedes.
So you're
Look
saying
at all these
you're saying
options.
German cars.
Yes,
Buy
100%.
German.
Or if you go Japanese, you can go 5 to 7,500 miles, 5,000 to 7,500 miles, give or take in between oil changes.
Yeah, I mean they still recommend
And I happen to
less
know
than
a guy
that.
who works for Hyundai.
True. Who doesn't get discounts or inside information about things?
And yet here I am working for Volkswagen, getting insider information and discounts from Hyundai.
I think there was a system that me being like a contractor, we would get some kind of discount, but I don't know if that system was ever put in place or not. But it's not. I don't want a Hyundai, so I'm never gonna like try it out.
The Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy Edition, pretty legit. It's the big SUV.
Yeah, but uh, trying to that car has been such a headache on the website. Not just that specific like trim, but that car itself because like I don't know. My job revolves around a lot of like data, and they changed because
So much stuff.
that car has like options and packages
Uh huh.
and all kinds of other stuff that data doesn't exist for all the other cars in the lineup. So it's like we're accounting for things that are like a one-off in the code wise, and that thing has been a headache on the website to figure out because of that.
And now you're gonna have that same thing with the what? No, what's that? Santa Cruz,
Santa Cruz. I don't know if that's gonna
the
have
Honda
all of that stuff.
Ridgeline redesigned.
Pretty much. I remember seeing that thing on like a weird like coming soon page when I started like 6 years ago. It was like at some auto show like in 2014 or something, and we had a page devoted to it, to like these auto show cars, and now they're finally making it.
It should
Um,
be interesting.
yeah.
Well, cool thing is because I think they have one at the dealership. There's legit an ice box cooler in the bed of the truck built in.
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone's going for cars and trucks right now. Everyone's going for like the non-standard stuff is what they're trying to like push.
So when you go to Mexico, you put all your drugs in the cooler and you're good.
Yeah, I mean, people are putting like chargers in the bed of their trucks or coolers, or just like other stuff just to compete because all the basic stuff is like standard now, you know? So
So you gotta stand out.
it's like how are you going to stand out from another truck when they all get like, the similar, especially out here in California, they all have like supposed to have similar emissions and MPGs and stuff. There's it's like they all come with options for leather seats or non-leather seats, for the bigger display or the smaller display. Like they all come with kind of similar stuff if you think about it. So it's like, how are they going to compete? Let's throw a freaking chiller in the bed of the truck, or let's throw charging ports so you can charge a welder in the back of your truck.
Or in the middle of a freeze, you just use your truck to power your house.
Yeah, there was that too. That was what Ford, right?
Yes.
They're like, yeah, you can just plug your truck into your house and try and run your house off your truck.
You can run it for 3 days off a full charge. You're like, what?
It's like, okay.
Didn't know I
I
needed
I
that.
do kind of want to see what the Ford like electric truck is gonna, because let's see, electric cars exist. A bunch of companies are going to either hybrid or full electric by, like was it Volvo's going full electric by the next like 10 years or something?
By 2030, most everyone should have at least a 50% full electric fleet.
At least, yeah. And then the rest are aiming for like hybrid
Uh-huh.
for like the other half. So hybrid and electric, which it's going to happen. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, I want my, truck to be gas and blah blah blah. It's like it's going to happen.
I want my V10.
Yeah, it's like it's even was it Lamborghini or McLaren were going to make hybrid or electric supercars? Like I think the last type of, I think, Lamborghini gas like V12 is being made, and they're like, after this we're switching to like hybrid model or electric.
And I see a lot of hydrogen cells coming up.
The problem, see, hydrogen's not bad. The problems are it's expensive, because even Hyundai has a hydrogen, Tucson. It's hot. Like making and transporting and storing hydrogen is expensive. The engines are extremely complicated for hydrogen. And hydrogen is also explosive. I mean, hydrogen's what brought down the um,
The Zeppelin,
yeah.
the
So
Hindenburg.
the Hindenburg was using hydrogen, and the reason why the Germans were using hydrogen is because the United States wouldn't sell them helium. So
So we're gonna make a giant bomb and put it in the sky and see what happens.
basically, they're like, we need these like lighter than air gases, and helium is inert, so it doesn't explode, it doesn't burn. Um, but it's expensive, and the biggest producer is the United States, and they won't sell it to us. So we could go with hydrogen, but it's explosive. And the German government's like, yeah, do that.
Sure.
And they're
You
like,
said
okay,
hydrogen? There's 2 hydrogen for every 1 oxygen in the
yeah,
water, so hurry up and
make hydrogen. Um, so yeah, like hydrogen fuel cells, yeah, they're clean in terms of your burning hydrogen. Um, the problem is they're dangerous, which people will argue like batteries are dangerous too, but then again, they're trying to create batteries that aren't explosive or don't burn. So that makes more sense to invest in that technology than hydrogen, because there's not much more you could do with it. Like the way you use hydrogen, there's only one way you use hydrogen for that, as fuel. Whereas batteries, if you could make batteries out of a different material, you can make it out of a non-combustible material that's lighter and holds a charge better and charges faster but doesn't heat up as much, which they've done like tests in different like universities of different chemicals that you can make batteries out of. It's just expensive and really hard to do it on a scale large enough for like cars and stuff. But they exist. Um, so I think upgrading battery technology makes way more sense than just investing in hydrogen and fuel cells. because then it's like then you got to transport hydrogen around. Then you need trucks and like storage tanks to move hydrogen and then keep it below a certain temperature, or else it just dissipates and you know
But
disappears.
in order for them to go full electric, get anything decent, they got to basically redesign the battery.
No, it is. They do. But batteries have not been battery technology as a whole has not advanced in a long time. Like they're squeezing more and more out of lithium ion, but the true like advancement to batteries,
Not happen.
which is what's holding everything back. Cell phones, cars, computers, all kinds of stuff. What's being held back is that we're using like, freaking old technology at this point. 60-year-old, 80-year-old technology. Um, and I think now we're at a time where it makes sense that people are actually investing in trying to reinvent batteries, which have been done multiple times. I mean, you remember the old batteries when we were kids? They weren't lithium ion. They were what, like nickel something? Yeah.
Nickel and alkaline.
So like they've already gone up a little bit from nickel and alkaline to lithium ion, and now they're trying to get to like these carbon batteries that are like solid state, so there's no like fluid in there. And
Which is still a sketchy thought process.
I mean, yeah, but they got like basically you're putting strings of like carbon atoms together and then passing an electrical current between them. But by doing that, they're also not like there's no like battery acid. So and they don't burn the same way like a lithium ion will. The chemical reaction to move the electricity around the charge is not as volatile as what we currently have. So everyone's comparing like current battery technology, but it's like, yeah, our battery technology is old. Once they figure out a new form of battery technology and make it and figure out a way to do it cheaply, shoot, you could have a cell phone that will stay on for like a month, and charge in 5 minutes, and it's not going to blow up in your pocket. Like, who doesn't want that? Or a car that can go, 2,000 miles, on a single charge, and it can charge faster than as fast as it is to fill up a tank of gas.
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff I'm hoping that they get to because then it makes sense to switch over. But I feel like car manufacturers and phone manufacturers and a lot of people are starting to figure out like okay, batteries is the next advancement, and once they figure that out, then they can sell crazy shit. But I mean, the first car that was ever made was electric. Like electric cars have technically been around longer than gasoline cars. Um, it's just battery technology in the late 1800s was shit. I mean, have you ever seen one of those Babylonian batteries?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bunch of clay pots with like tar and I forgot whatever the chemical they put in there, and you could
They
have like a they've invented batteries like 3,000 years ago.
they basically said it was an acidic based solution, like a
Hmm.
strong orange juice
Yeah,
with a copper wire going inside it.
yeah, and they made a battery like thousands of years ago. So,
And that's how they built the pyramids from the inside.
yep. So I could totally see like once they figure that out and they're like, hey, we can make these for cheaper, then the, all our cars are just going to be electric at some point. We're not gonna like there's the cost that it takes to actually make gasoline, um, and to like pull oil out of the ground, refine it, all of that. Um, it's it's more expensive than what you get out of it. I mean, right now it's still cheap enough to where people are still making money, and that's why we still have it. But once the other stuff becomes cheaper, they're gonna switch. Um, all the oil tycoons, all those guys that own, gas companies and oil companies and refineries, they're all going to switch into whatever's going to make them the most money for the cheapest because that's how business works. and people forget that. Their goal is to make as much money for as cheaply as possible, and if energy can be generated cheaply and sold for a profit, that's what they're going to do. And why do you think coal is only around mostly because we still subsidize it? Like a bunch of countries in Europe and stuff are already moving away from coal, um, because it's just expensive, it's dirty,
It's
and
dangerous to mine.
yeah, and the returns you're getting on running a coal plant is insignificant at this point. So it makes more sense to just switch to something else. And yeah, renewables have their quirks, but if you had nothing but renewables, depending on what region, like, yeah, California has a ton of sunshine, so it makes sense to have solar there. There's, hydropower, there's nuclear power, there's wind power in windy areas. Like, freaking in Scotland, they just deployed the largest tidal generator. It's basically like propellers that are in the water that as the tide like passes over, it spins the propeller and generates electricity. It's like the tide's
Interesting.
gonna do that anyways, whether or not you have a propeller there. But at least this way you're generating power. Something like thousands of homes can be powered for a year, like off the power it generates. So it's like cool. Just use that. It's cheaper than freaking digging up coal. So I don't know. Uh, I know like we're Hyundai's planning more hybrid models. Um, I think hybrid right now is just the easiest stopgap, probably because getting batteries at the volume that you would need to switch to a full battery electric fleet would be too expensive. So that's why they're doing half and half.
Also, getting the power that people want, the range, all that fun stuff. You're
Yeah,
not
that's
going to find it
all.
right away.
That's all. Again, battery technology is limiting car companies. Um, but I don't think they're that far away from figuring it out and being able to mass produce like cheap, high efficiency batteries.
It looks like Toyota is leading the charge. Volkswagen wants to be on board by 2025. Essentially, they just need one person to break it, and then everyone's going to
Yeah,
be there.
one person needs to figure out a cheap, like, there's multiple technologies for newer batteries that have been like invented, but no one has figured out like, oh, we can mass produce this on a level to where we actually can make money on it, like in a factory level. Like they can make it in a lab, but they can't cheaply make it like mass produce it. And once someone figures out like, okay, I design a system that will produce these batteries that are cheaper and more efficient than anything that exists, and I can produce a volume of them, then everyone's going to jump on board because it's going to be worth it. Also building out like um, like I saw a gas station not too long ago that also had charging stations. So it's like gas
It's
stations
starting
are
to
going to
pop
switch
up.
to it. They're going to like start adding charging stations next to their fuel pumps. Um, heck, if you had charging stations, you don't need a shipment of gasoline. You know,
Except for the diesel generators that you have producing all the electricity at the electric station.
yeah, you'll need that as a backup, but I think that's also going to increase the more demand for electricity there is. They're going to find cheaper ways to generate power without having to use fuel.
They need cold fusion.
If they could figure out fusion, which they're close to doing,
I think they already have it, especially for some of the naval fleets.
um, I don't know if they have full fusion power for those because you would have to shrink it down, and that I don't think they figured out yet. The biggest issue that the plants that I read that are testing it is they're having trouble keeping because what you're doing is like you're doing what the sun does, and you're fusing atoms together.
Uh-huh.
But the atoms that you're fusing together aren't like radioactive. It's like hydrogen or helium or whatever. I
Mhm.
think helium's like a byproduct of what they fuse together. I think they're basically fusing like water. The
Yes,
problem they have is they have to create like a plasma to
around.
a plasma with enough like pressure to force the atoms to stick together. Um, the problem with that is they have to use like really powerful magnets to keep the plasma field in place, and that they haven't figured out. They can kind of do it, but they waste more power on powering the magnets than they get in the return on the fusion. So like they can create like a fusion reaction for like a couple minutes, but it wastes more power than it generates because they have to power the magnets to keep the plasma field contained.
That and you don't want a rogue high power magnet just going off anywhere.
No, yeah, you don't want that either. And the sun does it because of just how big it is. It's gravity. It's sheer gravity to keep the reaction going, which is why in like was it 5 billion years the sun's gonna eventually run out of fuel to burn and start expanding. So
Not my responsibility. I'll be long gone by then.
um, yeah. So I don't know if they can crack. It's something like I saw an article saying like if they could figure it out, like they could basically put a plant next to the ocean and like for every like bucket of seawater they can produce power for like 10,000 homes or something for like a year.
That's
it's
crazy.
it's like some ridiculous number that they could generate if they can figure out how to keep it going. Um I'm like, see, like there you go. You're just recycling what the earth already gave us into something else and then getting power out of it. So I don't know. It's kind of cool and kind of like, am I gonna live to see it or not?
Not at all.
I don't know. The biggest things I'm excited for is like when they finally actually send people back to the moon, which they're planning to what in
5
20,
years?
is it 5 or is it 2024?
Thought 2025 was the cutoff or scheduled mission.
Okay. For like what
Let's see.
Artemis or whatever, where they're gonna send people back to the moon. Like I want to see that. Um,
When are we going back to the moon? Oh, 2024. You were correct.
yeah.
That's NASA going back.
NASA going back. And I think they want to go. Was it the ULA? Uh, was going to send the yeah as a space launch system, the Orion capsule, um, and new
So
structures.
they're supposed to be sending people to the moon in 2024, and then we're supposed to have people landing on Mars in 2025.
Yeah, that one I feel like I heard the date was more like probably by 2030s. We're gonna get there eventually, where they're gonna start sending people to Mars. Which hopefully no one dies, but I mean, that's pretty risky.
I saw a documentary on it with Matt Damon.
Yeah, right. It's easy. Um,
The first flight is still scheduled to take off sometime in 2024.
for the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, Artemis 1 is I think women are supposed to be on it too. They're gonna have female astronauts on the first flight. Uh,
No, thank you. This sounds sketchy.
dude, it is sketchy. um, all
I think
right,
it'd be more fun to land on an asteroid.
dude, they're gonna start doing that once they could do it cheap enough.
And then Bruce Willis is gonna have to save his daughter, and he's gonna have to sacrifice himself. It's gonna be sad.
Of course.
Because I don't want to miss a thing.
Don't sing too much of that. I'm gonna. Okay, we're gonna get more. Uh,
I don't want to miss a thing. It's just a statement I'm making.
um. All right. Well, we're about an hour.
It's already been an hour.
Hmm.
This fun-filled, exciting talk about automotive industries and crappy movies and battery talk.
And the moon.
We're gonna make a bunch of old men happy on this
A
podcast.
bunch of old men happy. Um.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as much as we enjoy drinking, we enjoy staying hydrated. Make sure you always drink a glass of water.
Yeah. Always.
Good night.
Well, see you, everybody.